There we go.
Okay. So, hey, what's up? This is a new show that we're trying out. I'm Seth. This is my good pal Kevin, and this is Questionable Taste, where we are going to mostly talk about the positives of certain movies. Either they could be we could be talking about movies that generally people all like, or even ones that people shit on, and we will talk mostly about the positives about them. And tonight we are going to be talking about the Star Wars prequels, which have been pretty mixed. I've been seeing in the last couple of years, they're kind of getting a
Yeah,
little bit more love lately.
yeah,
So yeah,
definitely.
so so Kevin, overall, what are your general impressions of the prequel trilogy? What was your first reaction to them? Has your reaction changed at all?
There's more of appreciation of the production of what they have done, the people that what they have done behind the scenes to make the movie. There's
Mm-hmm.
more appreciation of that story. It, it's still for me. It's our generation Star Wars stories. It's not like our parents or our older siblings. It's ours. We got the best story in my opinion. We got the war. We got Anakin's story. We got to see the galactic universe when it was still pristine and beautiful and shiny. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you just said. To an extent, I still prefer the original trilogy. Those are the ones that I grew up with and grew up loving. And I was like what 16, I think, at the time that Phantom Menace came out.
Yep.
And when I first watched it, I mean, I loved it. I didn't really see a lot of the flaws back then. I mean, I was
Hmm.
a young, naive teenager, and I didn't care about the
Yeah.
bad. I was just happy that there was a new Star Wars movie out.
Yep.
And of course, with especially with the first two. Now the third one I've consistently loved ever since it came
Yeah.
out. I love Revenge of the Sith. That's one of my top favorite Star Wars movies. It's I think my top. It's my number three.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely agree on that one.
yeah, but I mean, over the years, I've kind of been up and down. Sometimes a little harsh on the first two for their flaws, but then other times where I enjoy popping them in and watching them.
Now that's the thing with me is the only flaw, as I've always said for me about the first movie, honestly, is Jar Jar Binks. I
Yeah,
have always hated him, and that was even before I think the internet was even a thing.
yeah,
Uh, I'm a big Liam Neeson mark,
hmm
so I was like, "Whoa!" I'm like, "Dark Man is now a Jedi." I'm like, "This is awesome."
yeah,
So there's always that. To me, it's a Liam Neeson film almost
hmm
because he's the main person. That's like back then for us, it's like he was like the big time star guy, because it was Rob Roy and Darkman. He was in one movie with Julie Andrews at the end of the '80s, but I mean, he had great star power with him,
hmm
and his seriousness behind the role. I think that was like the main saving grace, and the fact was Ray Park with his skills and what he did
yeah,
was great,
yeah.
but um, it was good though. Like I liked what his fighting skills, what he did. The music of John Williams was always a good thing too. It was nice to hear his score come back.
hmm
Um, but it was also nice to see something new, familiar but new, because they still went to Tatooine. We still got to see 3PO and R2D2, Yoda. So it was cool. Definitely cool.
There's a couple of good points that you made there. Starting off with Liam Neeson. I love the character of Qui-Gon Jinn and how he is this master Jedi. He doesn't give a shit about rank. He doesn't give a shit about sitting on the council.
Yeah.
And he really believes in what he believes in, but he also kind of teeters towards the edge by he's not afraid to do things that the Jedi aren't supposed to do. I mean, the way he manipulated the dice to make sure that he
They
would
were
get
right.
Anakin as part of the deal because he didn't believe in coincidences, so he believed that his path leading to finding Anakin Skywalker, this kid with this high midi-chlorian count, he
Mhm.
thought there was a purpose behind it, and he believed it so much that he kind of went into the gray areas. And you know, Qui-Gon Jinn is kind of really the character in full is really in that gray area the entire movie, and I find that pretty fascinating. And so, I definitely agree with you about Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon Jinn, and then also about the fact that they were familiar but different, like you said. Um, the fact that they still kind of, it was familiar in that world, but like the look and feel and the style of those movies was completely different than
Yeah.
the original trilogy. And like you said earlier in the show too, like everything was all pristine and clean looking and like, so I appreciate now more so now than I ever have before. I appreciate what George Lucas was trying to do by not going back and just doing everything shot for shot, look for look. Like he allowed the style of the prequel trilogy, which was way more of a political story. He, did that very differently than how he did the original trilogy. And so I
Yeah,
appreciate that now. Um,
definitely.
yeah.
Oh, there's a lot of the things that I can't. The only thing that really sticks out always for me is Jar Jar when it comes to like complaints. But I don't see them. Maybe I'm just naive, or I don't. Maybe it's I don't care. Like to me, I'm more of that greedy fan where I'm like, it's not just the three movies. Oh, you're adding a new story. Oh, you're adding a new one. Oh, this is so cool. So those three they could get away with it. Now, since we are talking about the prequel, are we including Solo and Rogue One in this?
No, I was thinking just 1 through 3, and we could probably cover those individual films.
All right, fair enough.
I would like to do eventually a discussion on the original trilogy, also do a discussion on the sequel trilogy that just came out, and then we'll do a show sometime down the road about the spin-offs.
Definitely. Sounds good. We'll definitely have a ball with the Mandalorian, especially with this past episode.
I gotta get caught up. My buddy Keith from the Horror Syndicate sent me
Oh
his
my god.
information so I can use his account to watch it. So
It's this past episode, I just sat there and I was like, are you kidding?
yeah.
But yeah, so back to let me see, episode one.
And again, like you said, Ray Park is Darth Maul. I mean, Darth Maul was
He's supposed to be the villain through all three films.
that's what really disappointed me because like I remember when the film came out or before the film came out, I got the hardcover
Mm-hmm.
novelization and they had like 4 different covers with different characters, and I wanted the one with Darth Maul because I
Yep.
loved the way he looked. And I brought that book to school with me, and in like I think ninth grade, we were making like paper mache masks, and I made one of Darth
Mm-hmm.
Maul. And then when he's in the movie, he's very badass, but he's very limited in there. And then he
Yes.
dies, and it's like fuck, man. I would have preferred.
See,
Honestly, I would have preferred Darth Maul over Count Dooku.
we're gonna have to include the cartoons then in another conversation because it's just he is not dead.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
thing.
Well, I mean,
No,
in the sense that George Lucas didn't include him in 2 and 3. You know what I mean?
that's the infuriating part. But then it's like it's explained, which is nice, but at the same time, you're like, why couldn't you have come back sooner?
Yeah.
But yeah, Darth Maul, like the whole lead up for him was complete bogus. It's like Obi-Wan saws him in half. Like, it's like, what?
Yeah.
And if you notice too, and it's very quick, and I noticed it's still on the Blu-ray. It's the only time it's like you kind of see like a splash of blood in Star Wars when he
Oh,
gets.
yeah. Well, I mean, there was a little bit in A New Hope when Obi-Wan cut off that one guy's arm in the bar.
That's right. Well, yeah, the cauterizing of it, but
Yeah.
yeah, still, yeah, there's that. But like, I was like, like that's pretty okay.
Yeah.
But see, that's something else that they never kind of went with is that Obi-Wan got revenge, and but there was nobody there to prove it. So it's like that's something that he gets to live with. And I think that was kind of one reason why for the rest of the movies he was always like brooding and "Hmm, like I'm tainted." But you can understand why he did it out of revenge. He killed his master.
Yeah. That
It
was
was
a
still a
good moment
sick
too.
kill though.
What's that?
I was like, it was still a sick kill though.
Oh, yeah.
Bam!
Well, I mean, that whole fight was badass.
It was a good fight. I love that
Yeah.
fight.
And we got to mention too, John Williams' "Duel of the Fates" theme for that fight scene is just incredible.
It
Coming with
was.
his music.
Yeah, when we were in high school, I remember that being on MTV and VH1. And I'm
Yeah,
just sitting
yeah,
there at TV going like, are you kidding me? They're playing Duel of the Fates on the pop
yeah,
music station? And it's actually popular and cool with people?
yeah.
Like, wow.
No,
Cool.
I remember that they had a whole music video for it. Like they were showing like clips of the movie and like behind the scenes of John Williams composing it.
Yep. It was like, get to watch little snippets of the movie before it comes out. And that's when everybody was like, ooh. Oh,
Now,
but
what are some other
then,
things that you like about Phantom Menace? Anything else? Any particular character or
I love
scene?
how they just introduce so much. It's so much. Like, there's so many characters. Everybody in the background, like, you can just go into any scene, pause it, and be like, all right, now what's that person's story? And then eventually, here soon, they have a story. Or they have an action figure. Oh God, if they had the action figures that we had growing up, my God. It'd be madness. Another thing. Kenner, they're releasing the Carbonite frozen chamber. It's like the bridge and the thing to get to it. I saw it at Best Buy. It's a little tiny piece of plastic, maybe like 8 inches long, $80.
Holy shit!
I was like, that's not worth it. Just give me a 3D printer.
Yeah, right.
But it was cool to look at because I was like, wow, this is like as if it was really back then. Like, oh
Yeah,
wow, it's $80. Put it down.
yeah,
But yeah, other things I liked about Phantom Menace was, Samuel L. Jackson. That was pretty cool. Bring somebody else in, especially another character and man of color, which you still didn't. It was Billy D. Williams for like the other trilogy. You thought he was the only black man in it.
yeah.
That was the other thing that I did like was that there was the more introduction of not only were there different aliens and more, there were different humans.
Mm-hmm.
I think with the newer trilogy they went further. We'll get into that when we get to those movies, but uh, I liked seeing Yoda being younger. The one thing that I have noticed on the Blu-ray is I do like the CGI version of Yoda and Phantom Menace much more than the original Phantom Menace puppet version.
Really?
Yeah, like he kind of looked like he was cracked out on heroin or something. I was like,
Yeah,
too much of the forest.
yeah,
It's like no. I loved seeing everything being shiny. The new sets, the new worlds. It wasn't just the Death Star and some rebel base. There was more. There's more to the environment.
Mhm.
There was just it was alive. It was more alive, and that's what made it even more better for me, better than the original three. It was just so much. And even the music was livelier. That was another thing that I liked about a lot of the music. It was livelier, but it was still dark and brooding.
Mhm.
Um,
Now, what did you think of the pod race? Are you a fan of that scene, or did you not like the scene? Or because to me, it's useless in the movie.
it is useless in a movie.
I know it's supposed to, demonstrate that Anakin has all these fast reflexes, like a Jedi, and because he's the only human who can do that. But for
Um,
me, just in general, the whole race went on too long, and it was just
yeah, but at that point, and if you realize the marketing material, that was just nothing but to sell video games.
oh, I know.
Oh,
I used to play that video game over and over and over
oh my
again.
god. They still have it out with Pinball Pete's down here. They still have the working pod racer.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh, I play it once a year or so. They also got that new version where you can blow up the Death Star. That's pretty cool. It's like completely immersed.
Yeah.
Whoa. But yeah, you can do a pod race in that too. Pod race. It's I don't know. It's just more or less to attract the kids and something to play. Uh, it did go on definitely for too long, but I don't know. For me, I didn't mind it again because I like seeing aliens. I like seeing the different creatures. I wish it was a little bit more. Um, I definitely like the creatures and the aliens in that movie. How about you?
Yeah, well, yeah, for sure. And that was like kind of like that was like that point to me. It seemed like where Lucas was still using practical makeup effects
Yeah.
for certain ones, and whereas in the sequels it was kind of more CGI.
Yes, it was. It was like, here's your dots, stand in front of your camera. The other thing that I noticed too is that with the older movies, even the ones that Lucas had control of more, was stagehands were used, people behind the scenes that worked on the film. I mean, yeah, it's cool that James Bond is one of the stormtroopers and Simon Pegg is one of the guys that's, one of the junkyard people.
Yeah.
It's great that Mark Hamill has like three roles in Star Wars movies other than just Luke Skywalker, but it's just, I always liked seeing the people that worked hard get some recognition. I also liked seeing George Lucas's family and all of them too. It was pretty cool that if you look really hard, you could see him. Like the kid in the Jedi Boy in Episode 2 that really puts up a fight with all them stormtroopers in front of Bail Organa. That's George Lucas's son.
Oh, is
So,
it?
yeah, I mean, so that's pretty cool. And then
Yeah.
also in Episode 2, when I think it's Episode 2, or maybe it's Episode 3. It's one of those. It's where they're going into the opera, and the two blue people that are like right in the front, it's George Lucas and his wife.
Yeah, that was episode 3.
Yeah, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
I like seeing that
Yeah.
stuff. It's also great seeing Warwick Davis in all of these films too. I mean, that's how he guys start. And it's great that it's also pretty much how he stays in, stays working.
Yeah. So you want to segue into episode 2? Or
Yeah,
you
we
still
can
have more to say about
definitely. I mean, any final thoughts on Episode 1 for you?
it? It's a movie that if I was, to rank the Star Wars movies, it would be towards the bottom of my list. Not quite there, but I still appreciate it. I still think it's a fun movie to watch, but it's just not one of my favorites. I think it's got good points and bad points, and one of the things that one of the major flaws is a consistent flaw throughout the entire prequel trilogy, and that's the dialogue. But um,
Yeah, the dialogue did kind of seem kind of comic bookish, like
it wasn't natural, just
it was
like
like
stuff that
fearful
they were
and
saying to
anything.
each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but overall, it's
He's predictable. That's another thing. There was predictable dialogue.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But hey, we're gonna try to stay with positive here. Um,
That's not the predictable dialogue if you want
yeah,
it. Makes it easy to remember to quote the movie.
yeah. Do you got any final thoughts on Phantom Menace?
I, honestly, with all the Star Wars movies, for me, I would have to rank it as actually like number five. I always will like it is in definitely the top five. Great music score. It's a good beginning of the story, I think, for the Anakin Skywalker saga.
So you really like Phantom Menace?
Yeah, I do. I've always liked it because
Cool.
I got really excited for it, and it kind of, for me, met my expectations. And even though I got annoyed that they killed Darth Maul, it made me more interested of like, well, who are they going to get to be the big bad guy then? Like,
Yeah,
Sidious ain't going to do nothing. He's going to be hiding, which leads us to Count Dooku.
yeah. Well, that's interesting too because to me, like it was kind of a missed opportunity not to have Maul as a consistent villain, and where maybe that he was unaware of Palpatine's rise. You know what I mean? And like he could have been cut down in the third story. Do you
He definitely, if with a lot of the lore, and especially with Maul, um, he definitely had his questions. He was ready to kill Sheev at any moment, but he was still trusting him kind of more at that point because if I remember with Maul, it was, Palpatine took him right under his wing when he was like nothing. And it was like more of a father son treatment. And that's why there was still that, you know, we can reveal ourselves, this is cool. Like, it's like, no, it's not. We're going to reveal ourselves so you can die.
Yeah. All
Oh,
right.
another thing too, I love the little Federation ships blowing up. We haven't talked about the Anakin space fight scene. Before we leave, we should talk about that one. I actually watched that, and I got a kick out of it, the whole thing, because like God said, Anakin, do not leave the cockpit, and that's exactly what he said. Don't leave the cockpit.
Kids never listen to adults.
But it wasn't Anakin's fault that the ship automatically
Yeah.
started.
Yeah.
And he was right. He was like, hey, Master Qui-Gon says don't leave the cockpit, and I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
And I still wish they would release a version so that you'd actually know what the hell R2D2 is saying. It's like, can
Yeah.
you give this droid some subtitles or something?
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, I mean that wasn't a bad scene. It was kind of cool when it was him who destroyed the Trade Federation ship.
Like
But
his son in episode 4.
yeah,
Fires him right into the exhaust port, right into the power cord. It's like, sir, what's going on? What do you mean what's going on? Nothing can get through our ship. And I'm just sitting there like, oh my god. They just really did, honestly, George Lucas redid episode 4. The
yeah,
original Star Wars, just with newer people.
yeah,
Same ending.
yeah. And that was kind of a redundant thing that happened in um, the Force Awakens too.
Yes.
So let's move on to episode 2,
That gives
shall we?
me
So what was your first impression of episode 2 when it came out?
that was the one movie that I was actually able to get to see in theaters. I did not get to see episode one, which pissed me off. With episode two, that was a fun one. And it was more of an excitement because, we knew Anakin Skywalker wasn't going to be a kid. He was a teenager,
Mm-hmm.
getting more lightsaber skills. Um, I don't know if that's me or you. Uh,
That's me.
but definitely the diner scene in that movie. I always like seeing Dex. I always like seeing that guy. I like the clone story. I like how they explain that. I like that there was more of a mystery to it. It was more like a detective story of like, who's this Jedi? What's going on? Even though you kind of knew, because stupidly, in my opinion, in the credits, they kind of tell you who the bad guy is already, and I was like, why? Why would you tell us that Count Dooku's the bad guy? Like that, you blew it.
Yeah.
But it was
Yeah.
nice to see Count Dooku be brought about and more ancient, like Jedi backstory, more strife. Seeing the Viceroy and the other Nemodian there, Gunray there. It's
Yep.
pretty fun to see them bumbling to come back like, oh, what's going on? Oh, kill her.
Yep.
I was noticing I was thinking that the relationship between Padme and Anakin was a little bit off. I was off by like 10 years, and it was like they were like 18 and 24.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Boy,
For me, okay, I got to see all of them in the theater. The first one, like I said, I was 16, and I went with a bunch of friends. It was around the time of my birthday because they used to release Star Wars movies at the end of May, which was around the time of my birthday.
can you hold that for 1 second? Sorry. Oh, gotta take care of this cat.
Okay. Well, if you're watching this, what was your initial thoughts on Star Wars Episode 2? And tell us about Episode 1 as well. And well, what do you think about them now? Has your opinion changed?
Okay. I have to shut a couple doors.
Okay. Yeah, and with Episode 2, like when that came out, I was working at the movie theater at the time, and I was scheduled to work the midnight release, and it was huge. It was huge, and I negotiated with my boss I would work it, but as soon as the movie comes on, I need you to go watch it. And of course, it sold out,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so I quickly, cleaned up what I had to clean up, swept the floors and all that, and I went in. There wasn't a single seat available, so I had to like sit in the back, like literally on the floor, and watch it. And people seem to really like it. Um, I have to say, Episode 2 is my least favorite Star Wars movie,
Yeah,
and
definitely
yeah,
number 6.
and but it's another one. Like like even though I don't like it, there's a lot of other people who do. You seem to like it.
Well, there was more of a love story to it as well, and at that time for us, that was the longest Star Wars movie.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I was rewatching it and I was like, there are bits in this that are just way too long.
Hmm. Yeah, but I mean, like I was saying though, it's cool that you like it, and there was someone on my timeline on Facebook who posted that he was watching it and just last night, and he said it was his third favorite Star Wars movie. And to me, that's kind of surprising, but I'm glad that someone else likes it. I just could not get into it. I think the dialogue is really really bad in that movie.
Oh,
The relationship between Anakin and Padme is not convincing.
strange. It's
It's not convincing
strange.
at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the two strongest points of that movie would be Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan and John Williams' score because he
Yeah.
had that more like I like his theme for Anakin and Padme,
Yes.
especially towards the third act. You know when he's tells her that he loves her or she tells him blah 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 blah.
When she finally caves in
Yeah,
after.
and and as they were being brought out to the arena, there was something about John Williams' score during that scene that was really, really cool.
Yeah,
Really,
it was right on time.
yeah,
It was good.
it was very like tragic.
Yeah.
But I mean, Hayden Christensen as Anakin, I just it's rough for me because like here's my point. Like I love the original trilogy so much, and I remember that it seemed like very convincing that like when Anakin or when Obi-Wan talked about Luke's father, always mentioned him as being a very good friend, and like the way it was kind of told, like it was believable. Like you could believe that they had a close friendship, but then you watch these prequels and you don't get that at all. It's mostly Anakin whining and complaining about how Obi-Wan's holding him back.
Yeah. Yeah. See, that's the one thing too that gets on my nerves about with that part is it because I got confused. I was like, well, wait a minute, how is he such a good friend? Because all he is doing is whining. But
Mhm.
like with Clone Wars cartoon, you kind of see more and a different side at parts, but it's still that same. Oh, Anakin, you take it in when you're older. You're supposed to do this. Blah 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 blah. It's like Obi-Wan, shut up. Stop throwing the book at me all the time. You were trained by Qui-Gon. Take the stick out of your ass.
Yeah,
It's Ewan McGregor was a great Obi-Wan, but in that movie he was like starting to annoy me because I was like, you sound like a mom and dad wrapped up in one panicked Jedi. It's like, yeah, you have the chosen one, but don't put him in the shelter. Let him have his fun and also be there for him. And that was the one thing that I noticed is that was the whole thing that got with me with the Jedi is that they talked about with Anakin talking about compassion and love. I like the way his thought process of it because when you look at the Jedi, that's how it should have been. And it wasn't. They were so rigid, afraid of love and compassion. If they had only done it, I personally, with me, I don't think Anakin would have jumped easily. Like, and there was another thing I noticed in episode 3, which I'll get into that one after. But you start to, even though Anakin is whining, if you can get past it and he's got valid points, that's for me, I'm like, he's right though. I'm like, if he's the chosen one, do it. I'm like, if this was John Connor, like you'd listen to him. Like you're not listening to him. Like why? Don't tell him he's the one and be like, shut up. You're an idiot. Why?
yeah,
That's kind of a discerning thing that I found about with the Jedi and with the Sith. They were like, no, talk about it. We wanna use this. Talk about it. And Anakin slaying and destroying Tusken Raiders. It was pretty intense. Probably the best scene in the entire movie because
Oh yeah,
so much there was so much riding on that mother living.
yeah. That's a good point. Another great scene in that movie, though, is the stuff in the arena towards the end. You know, especially when you have all the other Jedi coming in as backup. It was kind of cool just to see like an army of Jedi working together and all the different lightsabers and yeah.
Yep. And did you know on Samuel L. Jackson's lightsaber it actually says bad motherfucker?
Does it really?
You have to like zoom in on it, like, but it does say it.
That's funny.
Um, he asked, he definitely did ask George Lucas to have the purple lightsaber because he's like, I want to stick out, like I want to know where I am. Um, it was pretty cool that he did get that. The big thing that I remember a lot about that movie too was Yoda fighting Count Dooku.
Mm-hmm.
Not only Anakin losing his arm, but well, his forearm, but Yoda fighting. It looked like a pissed off cat on steroids, but it was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a pretty good scene. It definitely got a reaction out of the audience when I went to see it in the theater.
Lightsaber was so small too. It's like you look
It's
at the
probably
size.
proportionate to him.
No, I mean you look at the size of Count Dooku's lightsaber.
Yeah,
The same size as Darth Maul's lightsaber. And speaking of Darth Maul, our Darth Maul of this movie,
yeah.
but even though he lasts for decades on, Jango Fett. What was up with that? I mean, there was so much story to him. In order to know more about Jango Fett, you had to play the PlayStation 2 video game Bounty Hunters. Like, they wasted a lot with not keeping him alive more. I would have had him in the first movie as well. And personally, with me, I would have had the attack of Geonosis, where a lot of them die. I would have bled it over into episode 3. Like, you start the movie off, you know, you kill Jango Fett, you kill uh, Dooku there, um, you kill definitely a ton of Jedi, and but the other thing is you introduce General Grievous in the battlefield right at the right at the end of episode 2. And, you know, he comes out with his lightsabers and he just starts annihilating people, like, you know, and then they just cut it. Like, that would have been so much more cooler, but they didn't do it. They
Yeah,
instead
you
kind of,
talking about it as like as a final scene.
yeah, like it just they ended it like Empire Strikes Back, kind of like, you know, they're getting married, they're holding hands, la di da di da. You know, I mean, they even end it like the same way with like type of music. They're holding hands, they're behind the stars. You know, I was
But it
like,
didn't have the same impact that Empire had because,
no,
you
yeah,
know, Empire ended on such a stronger note with Han being gone,
yeah,
frozen carbonite, and with, you know, the revelation of Vader being Anakin Skywalker and
mhm.
Luke having his hand cut off. Like there was so much more of a
Luke
emotional
finding out that it's his father. That was like
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
every
Whereas, you know, Attack of the Clones, you know, Anakin loses part of his arm and then he gets secretly married, but it didn't have that
yeah.
impact that was
And
needed.
we were too excited because we knew the clones were coming. We knew war was going to happen. Like, you know, we were thinking that, you know, Clone Wars was going to be the third movie, and instead we got Revenge of the Sith, the end of the Clone Wars. And we're like, I want to see fighting. I want lasers. What's going on here? No,
I
like,
I agree with you, but I'm not going to complain at all about Revenge of the Sith. I got
Oh
no,
no,
I got
no.
like no. I mean, the only complaint, of course, is like the dialogue and some of the acting, like with Hayden Christensen as Anakin. But the
Natalie Portman has a scene or two where I was like, ooh.
yeah, but I mean, other than that, like I can't say anything bad about Revenge of the Sith because, like I said, that's like my number three.
Yeah, definitely. Revenge of the Sith is a really good film.
So we want to segue into that. Any final thoughts on Attack of the Clones?
I, always a final thought is that I think they dropped the ball. It was too long. It was too much of a teenage love story, in my opinion. But it was really still cool to see the detective like story that Obi-Wan was doing with the clones and figuring out the clones. His whole story for me was the saving grace of Attack of the Clones.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, my final thoughts will be kind of similar. You know, like I really liked Ewan McGregor as Obi Wan, and I liked Obi Wan's arc throughout the movie, and I also like John Williams' score in that movie. Jango Fett was a cool character. He had a couple cool scenes. He was kind of wasted, but I'm
Oh
like
yeah,
one of those people who feel that even in the original trilogy, Boba Fett was wasted. He's got very such short screen time, and everyone loves him, but he
yep.
doesn't really do anything.
Nope. You find out he's just a pure clone. It's like
Yeah,
nobody loves you, little clone. What are you gonna see? But the thing is like yet again, he was another character that he wasn't supposed to be anybody, and he blew up into like from episode 2. You get to see and understand, and this is who Boba Fett is. He's a clone. He's a pure clone of Jango Fett, and he goes right on through.
yeah,
You gotta read. If they include the book, he does survive the Sarlacc pit. So we'll get into that one.
yeah. So on to episode three. First impressions.
The space scene was fun. To open it up, it was quick. Lots of lasers. The flying kitchen sink was always a fun thing to spot in the floating debris. Uh, the bus droids. You know, how everything interacted. The one thing that I did not like was the droids. They were kind of slapstickish.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yeah, you don't need to be slapstickish as much. Just make
Yeah.
them kind of be more like episode 1 killers. Like, just had them
Well, I
stupid.
mean, there was some slapstick droids in episode one as well.
Yeah, there definitely was. There was always a good reason behind the droids doing what they did. Also, it's just they were good, but it like the two super battle droids, like their conversation. I was like growing up, I was like, oh, it's cute, it's fun, but now I was like, no, like it was kind of pointless. They should have had the regular battle droids, I think. Because of the bantering that they had. That was the type of bantering that them droids did that we were used to. But they're just trying to show that these other droids, they interact. So I was like, all right. I always liked the droidicas. The droidicas were always a fun thing to see in the movies. I kind of wanted them to do more. Like, I really want to see what those things could do in a battle, like a war. Like, what could they do? Like,
Are you talking about the ones that roll around?
yeah,
Yeah.
little stupid shield generators, miniguns.
Yeah. So for me, episode three, when it came out, I was there opening day with my dad, and it was packed. We got there like an hour early just to get a seat,
Oh
and
yeah,
I just
especially
remember walking away just so surprised. I mean, it was the first Star Wars movie to go PG-13, and it really kind of pushed the boundary of PG-13 in certain aspects of it.
yeah, definitely. I mean, especially with the decapitation, like within the first like what 10 minutes of the film.
Yeah,
You're
and
like,
the movie gets
you're like,
fucking that movie gets fucking dark, you know. Um, but I mean,
especially the scene where Palpatine's talking about the Emperor. They're talking about Darth Plagueis and
yes,
how he kills him, and it's like Sidious kills him, and that's who he's talking about. You're just like, I don't get it. Like, wow, this movie's really dark.
hmm
And it's like you see the complete transformation of Palpatine, and if you understand how the way the Force works, with the way they've explained it to us, you'd understand that, if you're shooting Force lightning, it'll stop. So it's like the whole scene where he's getting deformed, but he could have stopped it easily. He just had to stop shooting the lightning. It's like, oh look, Anakin, he's gonna try and kill me. Help me.
yeah, yeah,
No, no, instead he keeps shooting, and I'm like, what are you doing? Just, shoot him with one hand and shoot him in the foot or something. Use your brain.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
supposed to be this great Sith Lord.
Well, I think he was really trying to play it up to get sympathy from Anakin.
Yeah.
You
Like,
know, he was kind of like acting at that moment. He was still trying to pretend that he wasn't the villain of the story.
yeah. And he did it. He executed the whole storyline of it so well. I was actually impressed.
And that was the thing, like, because like I said, like when I watched the first two, like I liked them at the time, but I also recognized, especially going into episode three, after seeing one and two multiple times on uh, uh, VHS or DVD, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like I kind of had a low expectation, and I walked into episode three, and I walked out so surprised, feeling like George Lucas finally got it. He finally had that right balance, and it was on the third movie. Unfortunately, the third movie of this trilogy, he finally found his footing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, he just should have went dark right from the beginning, kind of. But, you know, he had to keep it shiny and new.
yeah, yeah, but I mean, like, especially like the last hour of Revenge of the Sith, man. Once you get to the point where Anakin agrees to go with Palpatine and become Lord Vader, you
Yeah.
know,
Oh,
everything changes, and it's just like Anakin killing a
yeah.
bunch of kids and
Yeah. That
and
was.
Order 66, and just all the everything that happened from like the last hour was it's just incredible stuff. And like I have to say, my favorite scene or my favorite sequence in the movie is the final battle between Obi-Wan and Anakin. Not only with the way it's choreographed, but also with the music, and it kind of goes
Yeah.
back to Duel of the Fates, and just an amazing sequence. What do you think?
Definitely that lightsaber fight scene is the most epic thing. But the one thing that always I wish there could have been more of is seeing more of the Jedi's fight back more.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but you kind of could see that they were like, no, like they thought of all this. You're not gonna be able to see it because they're gonna have 20 stormtroopers kill Ayla Secure and Kiamundi and like. But Another good sword fight scene was the Mace Windu scene with Palpatine.
Hmm.
I just wish they didn't kill some of the Jedi so quick. Like there should have been more respect, I think, towards those guys, especially Kit Fisto, the green one with tentacles,
Hmm.
because he was a really good extra character. And they got XR Cone. He was kind of like the brown version of uh, Darth Maul's Death Morian people. Uh, it was cool though. Like it was just nice to see Palpatine fight, but it wasn't that important. But I really loved seeing Yoda fight Palpatine.
Hmm.
That fight scene was really fun, but it was too quick in my opinion. But the more of the big fight scene was the two Jedi masters,
Yeah.
the young ones. So, it's the heartbreak, the destruction, the twists, the turns, the power, the control, everything riding.
Yeah.
It was a really good sword fight. I mean, we're not going to have a good sword fight like that anytime soon. We're not.
Mm-mm.
No.
No, no way.
And like you said with the music score too, like timed, it's just that whole scene, the way they film. I mean, them two spent like a year choreographing that scene.
Hmm.
The whole, the all of the work. That's why it's one of the greatest scenes. But it kind of annoys me that a lot of Hollywood there and fans of movies they don't quite recognize it. It's kind of like you don't see the hard work that went into that.
No,
That is
yeah, they don't like they.
hard.
There's a lot of fans. They see only something at face value.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Um, I liked that there was the more characters. I liked that there was closure, but there was also more beginning, starting. Just a lot of good points I
Yeah,
liked about it. Like it was a good film, all in all.
yeah.
No complaints.
Where does that
And I
rank on
even
your
like how
list?
they even made Jar Jar one of the bad guys.
What's that?
I was like, I like how they made Jar Jar like one of the bad guys, but that goes back to episode 2. It's like he really wasn't in episode 3 because George Lucas finally listened to everybody. They're like, we don't want this big eared thing. So I mean, that was another good thing about that film. That was always good. The Grievous fight scene between Obi-Wan, of like how Obi-Wan had to use the blaster, was kind of fun.
Yeah,
It was kind of like, Obi-Wan's like, ugh, how uncivilized. Like this thing is so
uncivilized. Yeah,
big.
yeah, yeah,
Why would you want to use this thing? Can't you just stab the person with a laser sword?
yeah. I do like that. There's a bit of irony there that he had to use that, considering his remarks on blasters.
Mm-hmm. Um, that's one scene though. It's like, but it goes to show you how dedicated the clone troopers were. It's like Commander Cody is like, "Oh yeah, here's your lightsaber, sir," and they're like, "Okay, see you later." And then
2 minutes later.
it's like la di da dee dee doo. Oh wait a minute, we got an order. Kill him.
Yeah,
Just held on to a lightsaber for like 8 hours to give it to him because you were, and now you're shooting him, killing him.
if only he got the order beforehand.
Cody, Cody, Cody. Well, I mean that was
Now,
the
do,
thing.
do you now speaking of which, do you like the fact that that established that stormtroopers were all just clones? Because I was under the impression, like with the original trilogy, that they were just individual
Some
people.
okay, so that's see they get again. That's with the expanded lore. If you played the original Battlefront 2 game, there's an untold clone trooper storyline, and it's a member of the 501st, and he talks about the plight that they had to go through. He's like, it's like they're not just mindless things. They felt, they missed their comrades, their brothers, because they were all like, we're all brothers.
They missed everything they shot at.
Um, those ones, not really. Those were the more of the recruits, the slaves of the universe, just joining to survive. A lot of the clone, like the clone trooper in the story, like I mean, he talks about how when the Death Star blew up, like that was like a real heartbreaking moment because he's like, you don't know how many of my brothers and sisters died there. It was like, and you're just like you're gonna make me cry. No, but yeah, that stormtrooper story about with the clones, and he does talk about how the clones eventually died off, and there was only so few of them left that they tried to band together, and that's what the majority of the 501st was for a while. I was like, wow, like, that's pretty cool. I'm like, you know something about that? Uh,
So is that like an old game? Is that before the prequels, or is that a game that came after the prequels?
no, that was I don't know if it was after Battlefront 2 or right before Episode 2 or right in the middle while Episode 3 was in theaters. Because right
Okay.
before Episode 3 came out, there was a whole bunch of video games that came out before. I mean, they
Okay.
even.
Well, I just didn't know if it was like established myth and lore of the fact that all the stormtroopers were clones
Oh, yeah.
prior, because I never got that impression with the original trilogy.
No, because most of them were dead by then. That's the thing. Like, that's why, they were under the masks. So you didn't know. But that was the
Mhm.
one thing that, like I was saying, is like, you didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, like no, Lucas Arts they actually did write it. The guy that played Jango Fett was even like the voice actor for the story because he was like, so I mean they tried to make it legit as much as they could.
Yeah, I know that eventually when they released the original trilogy, I think on Blu-ray or something like that, they had him do voiceover of Boba Fett
Yep,
to
they did.
match to match the prequel trilogy.
Yep,
It was just like again, looking at the original trilogy before the prequels came out, I just assumed that all the stormtroopers were just individual soldiers
yep.
who volunteered or whatever to become stormtroopers.
Yeah, they
I
signed
wasn't
them.
I wasn't aware that they were initially um, the clones. I guess
Yep.
I had a different interpretation what the Clone War meant, but
Yeah, because like well, what's the Clone War? It's like what's it about? But it's like they talk about it for like 2 minutes and that's it.
yeah, yeah,
There's a new war that's going on. The
yeah,
Rebel Alliance versus. It's like, oh,
yeah. I mean, I guess since we are equally going into some of the negative stuff, even though we were originally going to come at this as mostly positive, it's okay. Um,
questionable.
yeah, it's okay. I mean, this is the first episode. No one's going to be watching us anyway. Um, so with that, holy shit, I lost my fucking train of thought there. Holy shit, what were we just talking about?
How some with the clones. How you didn't realize that they were clones and that they were individual troopers, and that's where I remember where we left off. But
Okay. I don't remember where I was going to go. There was something that kind of went towards the negative aspect of the conversation, and I don't remember now. Um,
It happens.
it's been one of those weekends.
Yes, I do know that.
Yeah. Um, so, all right. Well, let me ask you this: how would you rank this trilogy? Just these three films, best to worst. What's the best? What's the worst?
Well, the best movie is Episode 3. Like, that one, the speed of the film, how everything connects, the music score, even the CGI was like great at that time. Um, that was definitely number one. I prefer Phantom Menace and then Attack of the Clones. So 3, 1, and then 2. So 3 is the favorite, and second is the least favorite. 1 for me is why was this old man so pissed off? But then it was kind of like, well, you kind of understand why he was pissed off because he had this kid that he didn't want dropped off at his doorstep. You know, I mean, it's just it kind
Yeah,
of
but
makes,
it's like But if you watch like A New Hope, the way that Owen talks about
it was like he was
his father,
with Anakin too. Yeah,
yeah, and even the way that Obi-Wan mentions Owen, of how he said something to Luke about how Owen didn't want Luke's father to join him
well, that's
in the
the one
fight.
thing that I think they might talk about with the Obi-Wan TV series they're gonna put out.
I hope so. I hope they really get into that.
Yeah, because you're gonna have to figure out like what's going on. It's like why is and I think Obi-Wan tells Owen the truth. It's like, listen, oh, Anakin went nuts. I had to put him in his place, and Darth Vader.
Got the high ground.
Yep. Because that was the other thing too that Obi-Wan and Anakin, not Anakin, Obi-Wan and Yoda, they both knew more than what they let on to.
Yeah.
Extremes. And same thing with Luke did with Ray and the other one in the new trilogy, where it was like he knew a bunch, and it was like he didn't tell them. It's like, why? Just tell them. Help them out. Speed it up. Don't be an asshole.
Yeah. But I have to say though, like especially like with the original trilogy, it was great that Obi-Wan didn't tell Luke about his father because we got that great reveal in Empire.
Yeah.
And that reveal at the end of Empire is really what brought people back for Return of the Jedi. You know what I mean? Like it
Oh,
cemented that trilogy as a fan favorite.
yep. Because I mean, that made you go, okay, little boy is gonna go and confront daddy,
Yeah.
and then they go, oh, guess what? Leia's your sister, huh?
Yeah, I didn't I don't care for that twist at all.
Really wasn't supposed to happen. That was
And,
annoying.
and you could tell, like you could tell that was kind of like a forced revelation because like there was no conviction in it. It was just like, oh, by the way. But we'll get into that when we cover the original trilogy, which I want to do at some point soon
Mm-hmm.
because I love the original trilogy. That's
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, long before I was into horror, I was into comic books and Star Wars.
Oh, that was another thing too. With like the original trilogy was that they brought back Star Wars with the Dark Horse comic because they were doing new stories and the books that Timothy Zahn and Kevin J. Anderson did. Like
Mm-hmm.
also Star Wars Infinities, Darth Vader, and a white outfit. We'll get into that later.
Yep,
But
yep.
yep.
But do you have any final thoughts on Revenge of the Sith?
really good film, and I think everybody should give it a watch at least once. If you don't like it, shut up.
I have
um,
one of my really good friends, Mike. I don't know if you know him or not. Um, he is a huge Star Wars fan, and he seems to always have a heart attack when I mention how much I love Episode 3. One of these days, me and him are going to record like a reaction of like me and him watching the fucking movie together on the same couch, and we're going to talk about it, and foul language is going to be thrown out. I'm
oh
really
yeah.
looking forward to that. Like, I don't know, he's such a huge Star Wars fan, and I don't know exactly what his problems are with that movie, but I think he's got a problem with the whole prequel trilogy as a whole. But
Yeah, but like that's like the one thing I think that I will always say with me is like, don't go in with a pre-set mind for a movie because you definitely get a guaranteed like fail. Like you'll find something. Like just let the director unveil what they want.
yeah,
Then be like, I don't like it. Like
yeah,
Star Wars for me, I have about for the George Lucas ones, I've got no problems with them. The Disney ones, we'll get into that later.
that I'm curious about that because I don't know if I've ever talked about the Disney Star Wars stuff with you. Um, but one of the things, like you said, and one of the things I really like talking about movies with you specifically is that you are very open minded. You will watch anything.
Oh yeah,
You don't have expectations. When you love a movie, or when you like a movie, you love it. When
yeah.
you dislike a movie, you will. Yeah,
No, I
yeah,
just no. I always tell people, I'm like, just don't watch Godspell. Like, don't waste your time.
yeah.
There's a
But
few horror movies I saw over this past month. I was like, don't watch them.
yeah,
Not worth
but
it.
that's why I wanted to do this show specifically with you because I know that when you look at movies, you look for the positives, you look for the things to like, and that's kind of what I wanted to do with this particular show.
Yeah,
And clearly, we got into some of the negatives, so we'll restructure what our show is or what I say our show is at the opening of
yeah.
everyone. But
Because I think that's what kind of makes it questionable taste is that it's like, well, wait a minute. If you're complaining about it, why do you like it? It's like,
well, I think
I don't know.
ultimately, like criticism comes down to you know finding what you like about it, but also kind of bringing up front the things you don't like about it and being honest about it. Yeah, I think those type of critiques are needed.
Mm-hmm.
Like we can love a movie and still recognize the fact that there are things that don't work with it.
Oh
I
yeah.
love Star Wars Episode 3, but the dialogue does not work with it. Some of the action doesn't work with it, but it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't take me away from my enjoyment of the movie.
Yeah.
And that's the thing in like, going forward with this show that me and you are doing, Kev.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about stuff that people really like, but we're also going to talk about movies that people don't like or
Oh,
movies that I don't like
majority.
that maybe you do. Because at some point, me and you are going to talk about Halloween Resurrection.
I like
I know you do because I
that.
remember I shared a
Oh,
meme about it and you got upset about the meme because it was making fun of it. So me and you have to talk about that movie, but we're going to talk the positives about it.
Terminator Genesis was one that I was getting like, I was like, what's wrong with Terminator Genesis? Yeah,
And
there's quite a few that where some people are like,
hey, that's why we're called Questionable Taste. We're going to be defending shit movies, all right?
oh yeah, oh
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
Free
Yeah.
Trouble in Little China. It
Now that is a classic, sir.
is a classic, but my wife absolutely hates it.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll definitely cover that.
Oh, yeah.
But I think in the meantime, we shall wrap things up. It is getting a little late here.
Yep.
So,
All right then.
yeah. So, thanks for this conversation, Kevin. It's been really fun.
No problem.
And we will work on structuring the show and
Oh
kind
yeah.
of
We'll do
tweaking
it.
things as we go along. But and we got to work on trying to get people to subscribe and to view us and all that. But
Mm-hmm.
we'll in the meantime just record these conversations and
Yep.
kind of work on things as we go. So
Yeah, that's fine.
anyway, I'm Seth. Have a good
Okay.
night.
Good night.
All right, kill it, buddy.
See you later.
Oh, you got him.